One thing we constantly hear when we tell people that we're learning Dutch is, oh wow, that must be really hard. Or, I've heard Dutch is a difficult language to learn. Is that true?
In this video, we're gonna open up about our personal experiences as Dutch language learners. We'll candidly recount some of the moments that we felt like throwing in the towel and valuable tips and tools that both fueled our determination and contributed to our occasional setbacks.
Goedemorgen and welcome back. Let's talk about learning Dutch. We've always been big advocates about learning the local language when you're visiting a country, and it goes without saying that if you live in that country, you should definitely learn the language. And it might not be easy, but it's probably not as hard as you think.
When we moved to the Netherlands, there was no question that we wanted to learn Dutch. I remember us saying to each other, even if we only live here for 2 years, we would be disappointed if we didn't know the language in a practical sense.
Now imagine having the privilege of living in another country and not learning any of the language. That would be a really big disappointment in our eyes. When we moved here, we didn't expect to get it right the first time, so let's start by talking a bit about our failed starts. And this Duolingo video that we did about a year ago has a lot of really good examples of that.
That is not right. This is it. This is the end.
There's this thing called sponge theory. We thought learning Dutch would be like this. Seems simple, right? You're living in the Netherlands, people are speaking Dutch around you, so you just naturally absorb the language. No. Turns out when you don't know what you're listening for, or even the alphabet, or basic vowel sounds, it felt a little bit more like this.
At this point, we lived in Rotterdam, and many of the exposure opportunities we thought we were going to have didn't exist at all. Many of the menus were in English by default, and conversing in restaurants was also in English.
We did learn the word for toasty, though.
That's not that hard. Toasty! Now, we knew this was never going to work for us, and there was a period of time where we just stopped trying and actually felt a little defeated. But that's not the end of the story.
Thankfully.
We're here today.
So we placed a priority on moving to a city where we knew we'd be surrounded by more of the Dutch language in our everyday lives. After we found our place in Dordrecht, we knew that wouldn't be enough, so we also found a Dutch language school and enrolled in their in-person classes.
We knew we needed something scheduled, so if we got busy or just felt lazy, we couldn't blow it off. We needed something that was going to give us the accountability to show up and learn every day. We knew we really needed to see some payoff quickly. In order to stay motivated, we needed to learn things like how we could make an appointment or ordering food at a restaurant, and that was going to make us excited to continue to learn. And the lessons for A1 Dutch were structured in a way that kind of gave us these tools really quickly. Since we travel a lot for the vlog, we needed someone who was going to help answer cultural questions or pronunciation questions, even if it might be slightly off topic from the class.
It's not really off topic.
Yeah, but
It's not what we're learning right now.
that is true. We realize both of us have different learning styles, and it would be difficult to learn independently together, but taking a formal class would allow both of us to learn at least part of the time in our preferred learning styles. But we would still have each other to rely on for questions and homework, all of that good stuff.
So those are the things that work for us, but it's likely that you'll have different things that work for you. So we actually asked our followers on Instagram what tips they had for people that were learning a new language. Overwhelmingly, almost everyone said that you just have to start speaking it immediately. And it might be awkward or uncomfortable to do it, but practice makes perfect. It's something you just have to go out and do. You have to take what you learn and put it in practice.
Goedemiddag. Ik wil graag een broodje rendang.
Yeah, everyone was like, you're going to feel so silly doing this.
And I do.
And you got to get over it because this is the only way you're going to get better.
Yeah, I'm not over it.
No,
but
I'm not over it.
Getting better about it.
Yeah.
Another common theme was to consume television shows and the news with the English captions on. You could also watch movies in English with the Dutch captions on or whatever language that you're trying to learn. We like to watch Dutch YouTubers like Vet Gezellig.
Eet smakelijk.
Oké. Nou, dit is geen roze koek.
Dit is geen roze koek.
He talks a lot about food, which we know a lot about.
Not Dancing JD actually recommended that you change your language settings in your device into Dutch or the language you're trying to learn. We have not gotten that far yet.
Yeah, I feel like doing that too soon could result in stress.
And then we also had quite a lot of recommendations to practice your reading skills by reading children's books, which is demeaning, but probably a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Now that we've been taking language classes for about 2 months, we wanted to share the stages of actually learning Dutch that we went through / are still going through.
Are very much still going through.
Yeah. First up was the building blocks or basic stage. This is where we learn the alphabet, what sound each letter makes, and how to count. We also learn vowel and consonant combinations, and this is where we learn the very embarrassing truth. We pronounced a lot of things wrong, like really wrong.
Scheveningen.
Meerbed?
Kop van Zweden.
Puffertjes.
The first stage helped us correct a lot of bad habits we had and gave us a foundation for the lessons ahead. That's not to say that we don't still have bad habits. We definitely still have them, and we won't be perfect as long as we're still learning.
Maybe even afterwards.
This stage was the hardest, but it was an absolute game changer. When we learned verb conjugation and sentence structure, I had a really hard time remembering both of these, but once I did, it was like a cheat code. If you know the formula, you can structure any basic sentence and ask very basic questions. This part really unlocked a new level of learning because it wasn't just about memorization anymore. And this is the stage that we're currently at. Our current lessons are really focusing on vocabulary expansion. That way we can apply them to the formula that we mentioned before, which allows us to build more complex sentences and questions.
So full disclosure, we're in an intensive learning class. We're going twice a week, and we're probably not going to finish our A1 courses until around November. I think I went in with an expectation that A1 was going to take us a little bit farther than it actually is going to.
Yeah.
That's not to say that I don't feel like there was a huge step forward by taking the classes. There definitely was. But I kind of expected like, oh man, we're going to have conversations with Dutch people after this. And it would be really difficult for y'all if you were having a conversation with us purely in Dutch.
Yeah, I kind of thought we were going to be able to have meaningful conversations somewhat, and it's definitely not that at all. It's just the basics.
It's very transactional.
It's very transactional, which
Yeah.
is okay. And I had a hard time with that in the beginning, but once I came to terms with that, there are still things that are very motivating about A1.
Oh yeah, I mean, every time we go to class, it's like we learn something that we can immediately apply, which is super rewarding. It's just a little bit different than what we expected going in. There's still a lot to learn. And then after this, we do A2, and then we go to an A2 plus class, and then there's like the B1 class. And this actually seems like a really great time to talk about what the language levels are.
Let's get into it.
When learning almost any new language, there's 6 standardized levels that will measure your level of fluency. This is based on the Common European Framework of Reference, or the CEFR. They're grouped into A, B, and C categories, and there's 2 levels in each category. Category A is generally known as the beginner category, and like we mentioned, we're currently learning A1, which means that we'll be able to understand and read basic words and sentences. To master A1, it's generally agreed that you need around 90 hours of study. B is considered to be intermediate, so you can read Dutch well and carry on basic conversations or conversations on topics that you're familiar with only little preparation. To master B2, you'll need around 600 hours of practice, so there's definitely quite a bit of difference between A and B just in terms of hours of study. A2 is the current language requirement for citizenship, but the Dutch government has said that the requirement will change to B1 in the future, though they haven't given specifics for when that change will happen. And to be completely honest with you, once we understood what A1 and A2 and B1 were, I was pretty surprised that A2 was the citizenship requirement.
I'm shocked. We thought it would be helpful to give some tips for those of you who are beginning to learn Dutch or any new language. These were things that were most helpful for us and things that we still do today. If given the option, get the Dutch menu at restaurants. Don't Google Translate the entire menu, but instead translate specific words that you don't know, and that will help build your vocabulary.
A lot of our knowledge of words was very food-based for a while because of this, but honestly, it made an entire chapter in our book considerably easier as a result of it.
Definitely.
Use what you know. Even if you don't know how to complete the full conversation in Dutch and it inevitably switches to English, just go as far as you can. Keep practicing what you don't know and don't get discouraged.
This was a big one for me. I think if I didn't know how to fully order from start to finish, I would avoid doing it. But even if you can just get the first 2 steps out of the way, it really reinforces it. Somewhat related, if you're having an interaction in Dutch and someone says something that you don't understand, don't just assume it's the next step in that scripted conversation, or don't just ignore it either. Alex has been really good at this. Anytime this happens with us when we're out, he'll always say, "I'm sorry, I have no idea what you just said. Can you tell me?" And then they'll repeat it to us in English. And it really just helps us learn all of the different ways that someone might have that conversation in real life.
Y'all, if I interact with you and this happens to us, thank you so much for being patient with us. It really helps. Honestly, it helps so much. Speak the language every chance that you get. It really helps with reading, comprehension, and listening skills. Honestly, we're really lucky that we're able to practice with each other, but you can meet up with a group at a library a lot of the time and just get used to speaking Dutch back and forth with other people who are learning Dutch.
Yeah, there are a lot of libraries that have those meetups where you can actually speak with someone who's native to the language that you're learning. And it's a free group. There's a ton of them here in Dordrecht and Zwijndrecht, and they're in other cities too. And I thought that was really cool because that's super valuable practice. So, is Dutch hard? No, it's really not harder than any other language that you would be trying to learn. We really hope that by sharing our experience as immigrants in the Netherlands, you're inspired to learn Dutch or the native language of whatever country you're currently living in, because it's important.
And if you're wondering why we didn't speak a lot of Dutch in this video, it's because we're not super comfortable speaking in front of a large audience with it yet, but we do try to practice it a lot in our private, everyday lives. And to continue our Follow Our Dutch language journey, because we do sneak those things in every now and then, and obviously we do our best to pronounce cities correctly, be sure to subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Doei. Doeg. I haven't done that one in a while.
Oh yeah, it's been a minute.
That one's a little bit harder than doei.
It is, yeah. Good job.
Thanks.